Welcome everyone to another episode of What's Up Mainframe. Today we have quite an interesting topic about hacking the mainframe. We're joined by Chad Rikansrud, who is kind of the chief hacker here in Broadcom. Chad, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Look, this is great.
Hey, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background and what you do?
My background as it pertains to this is I've been into security and hacking, for decades now. I worked at a large financial institution for about 20 years before I went and did consulting, and now I'm here at Broadcom. And for a great chunk of all of that, I've really been into security of things and hacking in particular. And I think, it probably bears clarifying that term because I think it gets a lot of, not to steal your next question, but I think it gets a lot of bad rap. And we'll talk about this later, but when I teach a class on this, uh, we talk about hacking is basically just using anything that you can in a way that wasn't necessarily meant to be used. So it could just be a shortcut. It could just be, finding a quick little way to do something that wasn't particularly well advertised. And in the case of computers, it's really just using, the software of the computers in a way that gains you some advantage. And so we do this from a good guy, ethical side of the house where we're looking for those loopholes, whether that be a poor configuration or poorly written code or something that might let somebody either bypass a control on the system or even use a tool that wasn't designed for that purpose to escalate their privileges or give them some advantage on the system. And that's what I do. It comes out of a history of I like to solve puzzles. I like to take things apart as a kid, that kind of stuff, and also a healthy degree of being a sort of anti-authority, and that led people telling me the way things should be done, and me being like, well, yeah, but what if we did this a different
What
way?
if we tried it? Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I
and
love
that
that.
leads me here. Yeah.
And I love that overview of what this topic really is. So obviously we had the great chance to meet you in Prague and you told us a little bit about this course. So we're just going to give people
Yeah.
a little glimpse at that conversation. One of the things that we actually interviewed the winner of the competition, but we didn't get into the details.
Oh,
so
very good.
Capture the flag.
Yeah.
Ethical mainframe hacking.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Right.
You had something to do with that.
Yeah, I built it and put it on and convinced them it was a good idea, right? So very quickly, I mean, we talk about this idea of ethical hacking as just being a way of like emulating what an adversary might do, right? We teach people to come in and try to hack your systems so that you can do it first and you can find all the things that are wrong and fix them so that when somebody who actually wants to do you harm comes and tries it, maybe those doors are closed already,
Exactly.
right? But the problem is, especially with mainframes, they're big and important and expensive, and nobody's going to let you do that in production, right? I mean, they just aren't. But the bad guys, they don't need permission to do that in production. They're going to do that anyway. So what do we do? So we build an environment that mimics that, that doesn't run anything important. It lives out in the cloud on its own, and nobody cares. And we set it up so that you can come in and play and kind of a gamified. Everything's gamified, right? You've got the Duolingo owl howling at you. So same idea, right? Like everything is gamified. So we set it up as a game, and you could come in and try these things, and we give you little clues and kind of lead you in the right direction. And you get points and flags, and then people get into it.
And it sounds like it was a great success because a lot of people were doing just that. And it sounds like some of them even got a little fueled up in the pub and then came back.
My favorite thing, since I've done this a few times now, is I come check in the morning, I look at the logs, and I see, so there's a gap at about 6 o'clock last night, and then about 10 till 1 in the morning, it's solid. People go out and get dinner, maybe a few beers, maybe talk it over a little bit, and then they come back and try this, and they try and try and try it, and it's like, it's great. I love to see that, right?
So obviously we talked about the ethical mainframe hacking and this capture the flag. And so it's very much a course and kind of a game within the course. So can you give us kind of the broader overview of what someone who goes through this course actually learns and what they get to do?
Absolutely. So the course is designed for really one of two roles in an organization. Either you are a fairly knowledgeable mainframe ZOS type and you want to learn more about security, particularly from the perspective of an adversary, right? So the kind of thing we teach in the course is all about how to understand your adversary, how to think like an adversary. This once this permeates your brain, and everybody isn't wired this way, but if you're somebody who's wired this way, and every course, we have a few people, the lights come on. I'm the kind of person who will walk around, and if I'm in the doctor's office and they leave for a minute from the exam room and they leave their computer unlocked, or I notice that there's like an Ethernet port that nothing is plugged into, like my mind is immediately thinking about like what a poor security move that is on their part and what I could do, right?
Yep.
And it's about thinking like an adversary, right? You look at the world a little bit differently. You look at the computer systems a little differently. So we focus this on ZOS itself, right? And the course is really it's an introduction to a number of things. Overall, it's an introduction to this idea of hacking and this idea of thinking like an adversary, because as most of these people are designed are charged with defending and configuring and securing their systems. Uh, what I try to get across to them is like, look, that's really hard, right? It's really, really difficult to defend something because you have to get it right 100% of the time. And your adversary, who has unlimited time and budget, if their only job is to try to break into systems and steal things or whatever their nefarious acts are, they have all the time in the world, and they only have to get it right once, right? So it's a really, really difficult thing. So, but trying to get people to think that way so that when they go back to their organizations and they're installing a new piece of software, or they're doing some kind of organizational change or a merger or whatever it is that they do in their daily life. And I spent, like I mentioned earlier, I spent 20 years in a large financial institution doing data center operations and managing infrastructure and all this kind of stuff. To do their daily job, but also think about it, not just from a security, how do I defend this point of view, but if you start thinking about it like, geez, what could I do, right? Like, how could I use this thing? And then bringing that up is a really good way. It's not the only way, but it's a good addition to any kind of mindset. So we do that and we teach that, I teach that through showing something familiar, which is like, to a lot of these people, ZOS, and how it can be taken advantage of, right? And things that they may not have ever thought about. ZOS is it can be a very secure, locked down, hardened operating system. But in a lot of cases, in my own experience, I used to do this for a living. I used to do consulting and go around to all these different companies. People just haven't done it, right? They just haven't taken advantage of all these things for a number of reasons, which we don't really have time to get into. But it's more about teaching them how to think that way by showing them something familiar that they're already familiar with this ecosystem, and look at it a little different way. And what if you tried this and poked at this and whatever? So it's a hands-on course. We do a fair amount of lecturing, but we do a number of labs and an actual system to teach some of these concepts. And then the goal being that hopefully people come out of this where we've lit the spark, right? Where they have, geez, I want to go back to and I hear from students from previous classes regularly where they're like, hey, I just want you to know, like, we were doing this thing, we had this audit exercise or this software or this conversion we did, and I brought up all this stuff about why this might be insecure and we should be scared, and like that's what it's about, right? Or we should be looking at this differently, and how can we handle this differently from an adversarial point of view. The other role of the person who sometimes takes this course, which is lesser but still happens, is somebody who is already into this, right? Because this as a discipline exists across multiple organizations, like they call them red teamers or pen testers or penetration testing, whatever. But it's generally not focused on ZOS, mainframe. It's a very common discipline in networking and Windows and Linux and other web and that kind of mobile. But it is lacking in ZOS, again, for a number of reasons. But it shouldn't be, and we need to treat from this perspective. The organizations need to treat ZOS like any other computer on their system, mainframe any other computer on their system, and use their well-established best practices and tools, techniques, whatever, to focus on this system as well. So it's really about getting people, opening their eyes to this as a discipline, but also also introducing the idea that this platform also can be vulnerable. You should test it. You should poke at it. You should not treat it with kid gloves and just like put it off in a corner and just pretend like it'll all be fine. Because what people will pretty quickly find out is that it can be, but that's probably not the case. They probably need to do some work. And then you mentioned the CTF. We finished the whole thing off with like this gamified test, right? It's like try what you learned in a real world environment where I set up a system with a number of vulnerabilities, and they have to go through and try to exploit them in order to get points and. But ultimately, it's a fun gamified way to test your abilities and what you've learned, and it's a very common. It's very common in like the non-mainframe circles and security conferences and stuff to do these capture the flag contests. And so I wanted to do is bring it to us, right? Bring it to the mainframe.
So I have to say, I mean, I know that capture the flag is kind of common across the industry, but the 8, 10-year-old kid in me just loves hearing capture the flag because I just grew up playing it all the time. I was explaining to Lukasz, it's not so common here in the Czech Republic, but I mean, when we were little kids, it was normal capture the flag. Then there were water balloons that came in, and then later paintball. And then the video games came along, and they all have it. So it's nice to see, right, to have that gamification, even with work stuff. And I know that it's been really well received. Obviously, we talked about it from the MTE point of view, but can you tell us where and when people will have the opportunities to necessarily go through this course?
So the course itself, we publish like a quarter in advance on the Broadcom Learning, like Beyond Code site, the publicly available site. So we publish about a quarter in advance open courses. So anybody who's a Broadcom customer can sign up for one of those courses and take it for no cost. I also run an extended kind of deeper version of the capture the flag at multiple industry conferences. So we'll be running it at Share, we'll run it at a Vanguard conference, we might run it again at GSE in the UK, and also at the MTE. So the one we do, the capture the flag we do in the course is very focused on what we talk about in the course. The one I run at these conferences is quite a bit bigger and more engaged and designed for people who just want to like throw their hat in the ring and give it a try and see what they can get away with. And there's something for everybody on there, from just like basic kind of trivia and very simple, like get logged onto the system and find this thing or look for this thing, to ones that require a significant amount of technical expertise to get through. So there's something for everybody to at least dive in and try if that's your thing.
No, that's super. And so, yeah, we just want to definitely emphasize here that, if you're going to those conferences, to look out for Chad, to look out for this course availability, but also to highlight, that at MTE, it'll be run again. And yes, there really is something for everyone. And there's even praise at the end of the conference and prizes.
I know, living in infamy, glory, eternal glory.
Yeah, exactly.
Mainframe hacker extraordinaire.
Right.
Chad, thank you so much for taking us through this. We're going to put some links up to the Beyond Code offering site so that people can easily find this. But otherwise, look out for Chad at those conferences.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm sorry I called you Lukasz earlier, Zach. I got my brain was... I know you guys aren't exactly like, sharing the same body at this point, but I just had my wires crossed for a second. So I'm sorry about that.
Many of us think we're a package deal, so it's all good.
I get it. No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Anybody wants to talk more about this, come find me or send me an email, because I love to get into the weeds on this stuff. So it'd be great.
Perfect. All right, Chad, thanks so much.
Take care.